You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Tide.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, it is! And it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
Thanks for pressing play on this episode of Two and Out. It's Travis Currah, Brazilian Tie, and Sheldon Jones. The three-man booth, I guess, was a mediocre success last week. Sports Scallion on Podbean saying he loved it. So this is for you, buddy. We're going to do the three-man booth again. Now,
thanks for making me cut my tea time short.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
That's why I had to move it to 3:30.
I do want, now this is heartfelt, I think. It was about a month ago when Ty let us know that it would be his last season on Two and Out. So Michael Walker is a regular contributor to the show. He sends in emails, twoandoutcfl@gmail.com, and he wrote a poem. And it's called The Ode to Brazilian Tie. Sometimes when you have done all you can do, it's time to hang up the cleats. Admit that the zest for the game has waned and this season will be your last. Then the time has come to cast one's eyes back and savor victories past. Burger King's ravaged, McDonald's laid waste, and whatever that was at McMahon. When one cannot summon the requisite bile to hate Jason Moss's game plan, then it's time to go out on one's own terms, standing tall like a full-grown man. So we bid farewell to Brazilian Tie, grateful that time will spare us the haunting specter of diminishing zeal, but man will always have Andrew Harris. Thanks for all the laughs, Michael Walker. He fit a lot in there.
I appreciate the bile comment. Like, that is topical and like a deep cut, literally.
We love deep cuts on 2 and 0.
That was not what I was expecting. I was expecting like you just to play Dennis Leary for the entirety of the song, and then we would just move on. So it was nice. It was a nice switch.
If you see me with the next episode with an acoustic guitar, you'll know what's gonna happen.
Either that or smoke on the water.
We only have 3 games in the CFL this week
and next week.
Yeah, we're down to the final 2 weeks of the season. It's week 20. All of these games have pretty healthy spreads when it comes to the betting line. So I guess the big question, Sheldon, I'll ask you, are we going to see an upset this week, at least according to the betting lines?
I don't think so, but maybe. I think maybe the Riders have the best chance at a upset, just depending on who the Argos actually play. But because BC is going to be playing pretty hard to keep that thought alive that they could maybe get first, right? So they're going to play hard, I think, and Calgary sucks, except when they're playing the Riders. And I don't know. Edmonton could maybe too, actually. I don't know. I don't think so, because Winnipeg, if BC wins, then Winnipeg has to put down the hammer and finish it, right? So I guess it depends on what happens that first game, if there will be, I think.
Yeah, there's, Calgary, BC, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, they've all got something to play for. Toronto doesn't. So I guess that weighs in Saskatchewan's favor. But how many times since the winning streak or losing streak started on the Banjo Bowl did we think this is the week the Riders are going to come out with emotion and physicality? And it hasn't happened.
I don't think I ever did.
Yeah,
it happened once. It happened once when it shouldn't have.
Yeah,
BC.
I think that I'm not sure that Calgary or Saskatchewan has what it takes to beat the backups of BC, Winnipeg, or Toronto. So, and one of them's going to make it to the playoffs. So we'll
I
see what
can see
happens.
Calgary covering.
Yeah, I could see that.
Money line, no chance.
It's Halloween blackout night at BC Place. The Lions hosting the Stamps. The spread is 8.5 points. And if Calgary wins, they can clinch a playoff spot. And that's combined in assuming that Saskatchewan loses.
So if they win, they
Toronto
clinch a spot.
That's how I'm looking at it. Now, the BC Lions here, Vernon Adams Jr. has been practicing in full. We've seen a few times this season where he's limping around out there. The 2 games against Saskatchewan, last week against Hamilton, Dane Evans, comes in and finishes the job here. How do we balance the possibility, the outside shot of the Lions hosting the West Final, but also protecting your franchise QB going into the playoffs, Ty?
I think that, if the game gets out of hand, I don't see them leaving him in. If he takes a couple big hits and he's limping around like that and they have a lead, I don't think they leave him in, or a big enough lead. But if they're only up by a couple points and he can kind of battle through, they have a bye next week. So, if you have that chance to still win a football game, you kind of have to leave him in there on that outside chance that Winnipeg loses these next 2. But I mean, if they're getting throttled, or if it's second half and they're down 10, I don't see a reason to keep them in. I'd rather have them healthy.
Yeah, and suddenly Dane Evans has become one of the best insurance policies in the CFL, and this is why the Lions have signed him. And we've kind of slagged on Dane a little bit, but as a backup with Grey Cup experience, it's valuable to have there, Sheldon. You're wearing the Lions hat.
Oh yeah, I have much more faith in the Lions than the Riders this week. So
I have much more faith in the Elks than I do the Riders at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, this is when Dane Evans is his best. We've seen before that when he's the starting quarterback, he's maybe not the best, but when he comes off the bench, he actually plays quite well. So I think if, like Ty said, if they get a lead or if Fernan takes a couple hits, I think Dane Evans can come in and still seal the deal here against Calgary.
Well, and even if he doesn't take those hits and they get up 2 scores in that late in the third or fourth, they can take him out and make sure that nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
I guess because the Stamps offense hasn't really shown us anything that they can consistently move the ball and get it done, especially through the air. Now, before we crap on them, we'll give a congratulations to Jake Mayer and his wife Amanda for welcoming a baby girl into this crazy world. So congratulations to Jake, but there's a lot
Enjoy
to play
never
for
having
here.
free time.
Or sleep ever again. So congrats to Jake. He's going to be, because I mean, both teams got a lot to play for here, and including a Canadian record. Matthew Betts is going to be looking for Jake early and often because he needs 1 sack to set the Canadian record for sacks in a single season. I don't know. I feel like he's going to be giving it his all to get that sack early to make the record happen. He's had a remarkable season, and he might be the West nominee for most outstanding defensive player, Ty.
To me, it's still Demario Houston, just because the amount that he has done and impacted the game. I know it was all early, but I mean that can't be discounted just because it hasn't carried as much as we thought it would. But I mean, there's still those numbers. I think he's definitely BC's representative. I don't think there's any question in that.
Yeah. Can he win MOC or most outstanding defensive player, but not MOC? Because Brady Oliveira doesn't play defense, so
it's like in the NFL. It's like in the NFL, the MVP can't win Offensive Player of the Year.
Right. Which is kind of weird.
But he should.
Yeah.
But they have to make it a separate award.
Yeah. Congratulations to Reggie Bagleton. He is being recognized by the Stampeders for his work in the community. What a great guy, a great ambassador for the Stampeders and the league, as he has been the recipient of the Herm Harrison Memorial Award. That was named on Tuesday, an award that started in 2013, honoring a Stampeders player for his outstanding community service. He leads the league in receptions this year. 82. He's got 1,054 yards. It goes without saying. And I feel like the Lions have shown that you can move the ball on them. You can score on them. Even Hamilton had success last week. Sheldon, I think if they get Reggie going, then the Stamps have a chance here. Like Tim White, he was my captain on my fantasy team. 2 touchdowns last week for the Ticats. It's imperative that Jake finds Reggie Bagleton to have a shot here.
Oh, yeah. Any of the games that Jake has had a lot of success, it's because Bagleton's been the one snatching up all those balls. So him coming back is huge for them. They did have a lot of drops in the game against the Riders. So getting Bagleton back on there is going to be perfect for Jake Mayer.
And now Kadeem Carey dealt with injury much of his season. 2022, he led the CFL in rushing. It seems like he has fresh legs. I don't know, how do they get him the ball? They need to feed him the ball. He's fresh, and he carried them to the playoffs last year. He could carry them to the playoffs again this year. All they need to win here or next week and hope for a Saskatchewan loss. There's a lot going on here. For the BC Lions, Keon Hatcher is questionable, hasn't practiced this week. The good news for the Lions is that they have a lot of players that they can throw the ball to. I don't know. Is it good news for Hollins? Is it good news for Rhymes, Katoy, McInnes? The list goes
Legitimately
on.
could be good news for all of them.
Yes. I have 19 in my lineup simply because I think that the Lions, they want to at least give themselves a shot at hosting that West Final. But even if Hatcher doesn't play, the Lions are in good shape, Ty.
Yeah, that receiving core is like, it's probably one of the best we've seen in like the last 5-10 years for sure. It's just one of those things where you, as a defense, you can game plan a little bit, but you can only pick 1 or 2 guys to really focus on. And that just opens it all up for the guys that aren't going to be the focus, that aren't going to get the double coverage, and they can set up routes for them. So, sometimes when you have too many options, you don't have any, but BC has really figured it out.
Now, last week, Jaquan Hardy got the start at running back for the Lions. He had 8 carries for 26 yards. Mizell has been practicing in full this week. The running game hasn't really been a threat at all for the Lions. So we'll see if they get that going. I think VA, he's 400 and some yards and change from eclipsing 5,000. And we've seen what these milestones mean to VA. I don't know. Maybe they're just going to abandon the running game and give him 35 pass attempts in the first half. Just try to get that 5,000 yard mark for Vernon Adams Jr. They mean a lot to him. Do they mean a lot to the coaching staff? Probably not. The Argos, 9.5-point favorites as they visit Regina for the first time since winning the Grey Cup there last November. I guess the big question, Sheldon, for the Argos is who plays for how long? If you're building a fantasy lineup, I don't know if it's smart to pick an Argo. I got bit by this a couple weeks ago. Chad Kelly comes out, 2 touchdown drive, and then just leaves the game. So it doesn't really matter there. But also they've shown how much depth they have, and I don't know if the Riders at this point have shown that they have what it takes to beat even the Argo backups.
No, they haven't shown anything.
They haven't shown what it takes to be competitive.
No. Hey guys, they went bowling though, so that's good.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing if you're an RMF team.
Oh, wow.
They got a wind up before the end of the year. That's awesome. Coach Dickey's the best.
Well, maybe one of the players at a birthday party at the bowling alley. What's wrong with that?
Maybe. Hopefully they got cheese pizza and they were all happy.
Where were your birthday parties growing up? In Lloyd, it was like McDonald's. And then it graduated to probably Boston Pizza.
And then your basement for chicken wings and wrestling.
Yeah, 400 7-Eleven chicken wings. No exaggeration. No leftovers either.
Pretty much the same, but we had Ruckers here. So it was Ruckers for quite a while. And then, 6-foot party subs in the basement. Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
When you come from a dual income household, it's really easy to get the good stuff.
Wow,
No,
the
sir,
pity
that's
party's on.
There was no dual income. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen here. I do, spoiler alert, have a couple Argos in my lineup right now just because I wasn't willing to go as far as I went last week when this Calgary didn't do anything. It got me a nice score, 69.7, but
Nice.
a whole team getting that many points is pretty bad. So, I don't know, man. The Riders aren't going to be fired up. If what happened last home game couldn't fire them up, I don't see how they could be fired up. According to Coach Dickinson, the other teams are already making them do plan B and C, which is coaching. And apparently they don't know how to counter coaching. So I'm not expecting a lot other than just to be chatting with Phil all game.
Yeah. What he's saying basically is that teams have figured out what we do and we're unwilling to change it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if they're officially eliminated from the playoffs this week, and I know that there's lapsing contracts for Dickinson and O'Day too, I believe, the general manager, are they gone by the playoffs and officially announcing that the search is on for a new head coach and or general manager? Season ticket renewals, the packages are out there for the Riders. They've already sent in letters to season ticket holders saying that we appreciate you. Please don't forget about us. We appreciate you. But I think
taking a page right out of the Winnipeg Jets playbook,
knowing that a change is imminent can go a long way with some upset season ticket holders, Ty.
Yeah, I think even if the Riders make the playoffs, I still think that the coaching staff has got to be overhauled. But yeah, like being an Oilers fan and always wanting change, and then you get it, but it was 7 coaches in 9 years, and there was no continuity. It's like, what is happening? I mean, the Riders have had the same head coach this is his 4th season, is it not?
And I think there was some continuity with the Riders staff because everybody is basically a leftover from, I don't want to put it that way, but from the Jones regime. Dickey was on the staff. He stepped in. So there has been continuity in Saskatchewan that way.
Right. And the results haven't been there. And then this year happens and it's an absolute dumpster fire. And I just think with the fan base that is in Saskatchewan, that they're okay with a rebuild, but you want to see results, and this whole like no effort, no fire, like they don't want that, and it's going to fall solely on the coach and the GM, and if change might save some season ticket holders.
Now it's all about being able to protect Jake Dolegala here, and the Argos proved even when they played Winnipeg a few weeks ago, it was supposed to be the big showdown. They sat Sean Oakman. They sat some starting defenders, and they were able to hit Zach and get to him often. So the Argos have depth up front. And even if some of the heavy hitters sit, it just means a fresh defensive lineman's going to be in there stopping the run and rushing the quarterback. The Argos, and maybe this is because they've gotten up on teams, they've had some holes in the secondary at times. They've given up the most completions in the CFL. Their secondary has given up the best completion percentage to opposing teams. The only team over 70%, 71.3 against. Now, Jake is getting his detractors now accused, and analyzed of, locking in on his number one read and kind of staying with that. But the Argos, they've been giving up yards through the air. They've been giving up scores as well. So maybe there is an opportunity for the Riders if they come in with a good game plan, because I do want to highlight Jamal Morrow. Over his past 2 games, 35 carries, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he added 6 catches for 58 yards. Are they going to be able to keep the running game rolling, Sheldon?
Maybe. He's the only person on that team that actually seems like he cares.
It's like putting Hickson in for the few games when he was banged up, like revitalized him somehow.
Yeah, he's been running like he's on a mission. His cuts have been like really awesome. He's like, I do have him in my lineup this week just because he's the only rider who's actually seems like he's giving it. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
I'm broken, man. I'm a broken Rider fan, so sorry I don't have more for you here.
Hey, the Argos popped 40 on the Ottawa Red Blacks. I mean, when they really didn't need to. Chad Kelly, 18 of 28, 287 yards and 1 touchdown last week. I guess one guy I'm looking at on the Argos, and we'll see what happens when they come out with the depth chart, but Deontay McMahon had 5 carries, 19 yards, and a touchdown last week. Daniel Adeboboye got 9 carries for 59 yards. I don't know. Is it smart to pick a backup? Like, what's the best backup that we could pick? Who's gonna have the targets and the work this week against Saskatchewan? David Ungerer last week had 7 catches for 83 yards. Is he an option? Davaris Daniels had 6 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown. Maybe I'm stupid, Ty, but I think the veteran has maybe earned a smaller workload this week against Saskatchewan.
Unless Nick Marshall's covering him, because then you know where that ball's going.
Get me in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's all it comes down to. What are the Argos going to do? Hey, even the great Robbie Smith had 2 sacks last week, returning to the scene of the crime last year's Grey Cup, where he took a penalty, he blocked a kick. There was so much going on for Robbie Smith. What a fourth quarter.
He went from scapegoat to MVP in the span of a minute and a half.
Talk about a roller coaster. So, yeah, just watch depth charts, and even then, I feel like the backups will be getting more playing time for Toronto. I do have Deontay McMahon in my lineup simply because he's $2,800. And the Rough Rider rushing defense has been suspect in this last third. Yeah, that was weird.
Put the wrong emphasis.
Last third of the season. Now, the last game of week 20, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 11.5-point favorites over the Edmonton Elks. Now, here's the deal. If BC beats Calgary, do we see the Bombers resting guys, Sheldon?
Probably, but I don't know. Like, O'Shea is such a tough nut to crack sometimes. Like, they do still have their bye. You don't want to sit players too early. At least get them like a quarter or a half, and then maybe put the backups in. I don't know.
Actually, the Bombers got Calgary next week. So
yeah, so I mean, they already have their bye. So I don't know if you want guys with 2 weeks. Like, they have their bye after the first round if they clinch. I don't think you want guys having that much time off.
Yeah, they did that a couple of years ago. And if I remember correctly, Saskatchewan turned the ball over 6 times and still lost. So that just shows what the Bombers can do. Now, and maybe that is Calgary's path to the playoffs, where both Calgary and Saskatchewan lose this week. And then Winnipeg
backups next week
rests everyone, and Calgary wins like 12-10.
Andrew and I mapped out the end of the season on Monday night at Brewhouse, and that was exactly what I said. I'm like, well, just get out to win. Like, Calgary's just got to hope that Winnipeg rests everybody. They easily win that football game and they backdoor themselves into the playoffs.
What a way to get in. What a way. And then watch them lose, and the Riders get into the playoffs with like a 7-game losing streak. That would be incredible.
No, because then they'll win.
Because then the fan base has false hope. And then we got to listen to them cry on CKRM, which, I mean, the post-game shows after a loss are the only post-game shows worth listening to. Because after a win, it's just not as fun.
It's so good. It's so good. I don't know. It's quality entertainment, I think. Yeah.
It's just as good as Kim's Convenience.
Let's give a shout out to Winnipeg. And I feel like Ty is going to come in at this one from multiple angles. The Jets had 11,000 people in the stands the other day.
In a rink that isn't big enough to be an NHL rink, just move the team back to Atlanta already.
And the Bombers are trending towards another sellout. Now, this is what winning does. That's the end of the story. At least I think the end of the sentence there. It just goes to show that, hey, the CFL can be big league in Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. Continually win. Like, this goes for Edmonton. I think it goes for Calgary as well. It goes for the Lions. Consistently put a good product on the field. And that's what the Bombers have done. And what an atmosphere and what a success story in the CFL in Winnipeg.
It's wild. Like, what O'Shea has been able to do, and Kyle Walters and that group. Guys are taking pay cuts. Guys want to stay there because they're winning. And that's attracting more players to come there. It's easier to build you keep a roster together, and then you can add pieces on the outside that complement that roster, and you can keep championship teams together. It's kind of a lesson to the rest of the CFL. Like, if you can win and guys want to stay, you can keep a winning team on the field. You don't have to be the Florida Marlins and blow it up after a championship, or the 2013 Riders. It's just one of those things where winning begets winning. And if you can keep it up, yeah, they're not gonna win every year. They're not gonna be in the Grey Cup every year, but they might. Yeah. With the products that some of the teams are putting out there, it seems like it's a pretty easy path every year right now. And it just keeps showing that, like, if they're gonna sell out that stadium every week, that's wild. Like, that's like when the Riders do it, it's expected, even when it's a crap product sometimes. And you saw that with the Oilers with the Decade of Darkness. They were still selling out games and nobody knows why, but there was nothing else to do. But it's summer in Manitoba. There's a million lakes there, like, but people are still going to the football games because the team is that good.
Yeah.
It helps continue the success because they're like, well, we can keep doing this. And the players love to play in front of packed houses. And if they're winning, like, yeah, you want to make the money, but the money in the CFL that you're going to make is, like, it doesn't matter free agency or whatever. You can make that, take a little bit less to stay where you can win.
I think that's why the Riders need to go hard after Wade Miller after this year. Because I don't think he's staying. I don't think he's staying.
Patrick might fight him, though. If that happens.
We invaded the Bomber Party Labor Day weekend, and Wade Miller tried to get the bartender not to serve my brother a drink.
And then we went in as double agents.
Well, Sheldon, did you mean Kyle Walters?
Oh, whichever one's because one of them is on
Walters is
year.
the GM, and I think his contract is
okay. Yeah, one of them. Yeah, either. I don't care. They have a winning culture that they have in Winnipeg, and they could bring it over here.
I'm just imagining if the Riders got both, what that would do on Labor Day. But now I don't know what Mike O'Shea wants.
Bomber fans already piss on Old Taylor Field. What's going to change?
Like, does Mike O'Shea want the GM/head coach role? Maybe he does. But we've seen what that has done to other teams, Calgary, Edmonton, Hamilton. Now, Hamilton's turned it around during the back third of the season, but there still could be changes if they only have a one and done in the playoffs in a Grey Cup hosting year. But it is a lot to do the head coaching and the GM thing. But the paycheck's nice. The power is nice.
Wow, wow, wee, wow.
Still, if Kyle Walters goes to Saskatchewan, and that would have to be their number one target if he is available here. If we do just talk about this game, Dalton Schoen has been missing at practice. But Rasheed Bailey has had double-digit points against the Elks twice this season. And I just see if BC beats Calgary, Winnipeg's going to want to put this game away early, and I think they'll be displaying their firepower in the first half. I believe Niles Morgan, starting middle linebacker for the Elks, he's in danger of missing this game. To me, it just looks like all Brady, all Zach, and let's put on a show here for our hometown crowd early, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, like they can rest guys next week to a point.
And it's on the road, so
but your last home game, I mean, you don't want to say like, yeah, you want to show up for the home crowd and you want to start your starters. It shouldn't matter. But those players want to play in front of the home team fans, because it's just you can just tell like they love being out there. Like they get so much energy and just so much jam from it. Like I see them going up early and not letting off the gas. And maybe we see the backups come in the second half, and it is what it is. But I can totally see them being up 30 at half.
I think we've seen some times where O'Shea will let Zach play a little bit longer than maybe the the armchair guy like you and I, Sheldon, could see. He stays in there long sometimes.
I am in the middle of my Madden franchise, and I've built through the draft, and it's been amazing. And I'll be up 40 points and still running with my number one running back, and then get mad when he gets injured and be like, "Oh, what the hell? This game is against me." No, I could have just taken him out.
I guess that's the risk, hey, Sheldon, the balancing act at this point of the year.
Yeah, well, and you also have to deal with the quarterbacks who don't want to be taken out, right? Like, even in this last Argos game, like you could tell Dinwiddie wanted to get Kelly out of there, but he was having no part of it, right? And then they even took him out for a play, and then he went back in. So,
Mike Mussina telling Joe Torre to go back into the dugout.
Exactly.
And Zach doesn't like to come out ever, right? So it'll be tough. Interesting to see what Mike does here.
Now, could this be Manny Arsenault's final game of his career for the Edmonton Elks? 9,177 yards, 58 touchdowns in his career, a CFL legend, a BC Lions legend. You know that the Manny show is going to get added to the wall in BC one day. And I feel like if this is his last game, we should all do it on the podcast. Good thing you're not here, because I'd be licking your faces just like Bushwhacker Luke. But Manny is
best Royal Rumble participant of all time.
100%.
Props to the Manny show if this is it, for a great CFL career. And hey, we got to mention Trey Ford started against the Bombers back in August, got up to a 22-0 lead, surprised everyone until the Bombers woke up and Kenny the King did his thing. And, the Elks elked. It's just that the Bombers got a little bit more to play for this week. That's what. That's the bottom line here. And hey, Trey Ford could pull out a play or two here and really get Elks fans excited for next year. I'm excited to see what next year looks like in Edmonton with Trey Ford getting the full training camp and everything like that.
Let's not jump to that, because Chris Jones could still screw that up.
He could. We'll see what happens in 2024. But it's weird. I think at the beginning of the year, if you said the Elks would have the same amount of wins that they had in 2022, that it would be a straight up failure. But somehow there's like some positive feelings going into the offseason for Edmonton. It's kind of weird, Sheldon.
Well, yeah, it's weird because if they would have started Trey Ford a few games earlier, they'd be in third place right now.
They would be.
So I think Elks fans have to be still upset about that. But I think you do once they won at home and they got that monkey off their back, I think maybe that helped a little bit with the softening on the let's fire Jones. We can't fire Jones because of the cap, but let's fire him. But yeah, because this is the first year where he's went somewhere and he hasn't had that year-over-year growth, right? So it's very interesting. It's uncharted waters for him, but they're not going to fire him. He's still going to have another chance. But if they win 4 or 5 games next year, then he'll be done for sure.
Well, I mean, if they start 0-9 next year.
Yeah. Hopefully they just fix this rule in the offseason so that teams actually can make changes when they need to make changes.
Do you think they will, Ty? They'll deal with the ops cap?
I think they should just scrap it.
I do too.
I'm fine with them having a cap if they're trying to limit what the teams are spending in a way so that they are not, going out of business. But the penalties, like you're already financially paying this coach. If you have to sign another coach, that should be a penalty enough on a franchise who might not have money. Like I'm not talking like MLSE because they don't care, right? But for the community-owned teams, if they have to make a choice, that's going to dip into their coffers, right? So that's a penalty.
Making a team keep a coach strictly because it's in a rule book about, because it's going to count against your cap still. Then you're hindering teams more than you are letting, because they're not going to improve that year.
There's three teams this year that probably could have or should have made a move during the season, but none of them could because of the stupid cap.
But do you think teams need their hands held? Because either way, they're going to pay the guy. If they can't afford it, they'll keep the guy on anyway. So I guess that shows, like, just get rid of the cap, right? I mean, if they can't afford to pay 3 guys at once.
If you can't manage your own money well enough to stay in business, that's on you.
Yeah, I don't think that's the league's fault.
No. It's
team.
A certain president is the one who put forth this, so maybe he should learn to limit somebody coach and all the money that he's spending.
Who did it?
Reynolds. Because of Jones. Reynolds is the one who went to the Board of Governors
and said we need an ops cap.
And said we need an ops cap.
Because of his own team?
Yeah, because I can't limit.
I can't afford
this. That's why he's the one who should be fired first before Craig Dickinson and Jeremy O'Day. But now it's all 3 of them should be gone.
Fantasy this week. It's one of those tough weeks. I would say that my team looks like an all-star team because it includes Kadeem Carey, Dominic Rhymes, Sean Bain Jr., Brady Oliveira, Zach Collaros, and I've got McMahon at running back as well. And I have the Bombers defense. $500 left over, but sometimes playing time just screws these up, man. Sheldon, what's yours look like?
Because they're the cheapest, I have the Riders defense. I'm not going to score points there, but Vernon Adams, AJ Ouellette, as of right now, because if he's going to be playing, he didn't play last week, so I think they are going to play him this week. And if he's playing, I got to have him on my team. I do have Jamal Morrow because, like I said, he needs to, or he's the only one who shows like they care or he cares. So hopefully he can score some points. Dominic Rhines, Hollins, and I got Neiled as my flex because I think he'll probably get a look there.
What about you, Ty?
Collaros, Carey, Oliveira, Lawler, Bagleton if he plays, Hakanavanu in my flex, and I figure like if Bagleton doesn't play, I've got 11.5 to play with. And I got the Bombers defense against the Elks.
I got to wish Ryan Cooper of the Canadian Football Countdown a big congratulations for winning the CFL Podcast Fantasy League this year. And with his winnings, he has donated the money to the Children's Rehabilitation Foundation in Winnipeg, a worthy cause. Congrats to Ryan for the big win. I will have it be known that I have the highest score in that league. So I'm just putting that out there into the universe, even though it doesn't matter.
The Vancouver Canucks scored 8 on Wednesday, and they're not going to do a damn thing, so it doesn't matter. I don't want to talk about it.
Damn you, Ty. The Lions, Argos, and Bombers. Are we all in agreement on the winners in Week 20?
It is decided.
This is the way.
You can rate, review, and subscribe to Two and Out on your favorite podcatcher. You can like or comment on YouTube as well and support the show on Patreon. Well, there it is. Week 20 of the CFL season is upon us. We will talk to you next week, talking about what's, I guess, guaranteed to be the crazy happenings in the league this weekend. For Brazilian Ty and Sheldon Jones, I'm Travis Currah. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.